Imagine being trapped inside a 30-ton steel box, knowing that the enemy across the field can see you, target you, and incinerate you before you even get within range to fire back. In the autumn of 1944, this wasn't a nightmare, it was the daily reality for American tankers in Europe. They were driving the M4 Sherman, a tank they had begun to call the Ronson because, like the famous lighter, it lit up the first time, every time it was hit. Thousands of young Americans were dying in these iron coffins, pleading for a weapon that could actually stand up to the German Panthers and Tigers. And the Pentagon had the answer, the M26 Pershing. It was a monster. Thick armor, a massive 90mm gun. It was the tiger killer they had been praying for. But then something unthinkable happened. The most aggressive, successful, and legendary tank commander in American history, General George S. Patton Jr., stepped in, and he said no. Why would the man known as Old Blood and Guts, the man who lived for the attack, refuse the most powerful attacking weapon in the U.S. arsenal? Did Patton's ego cost thousands of American lives? Or did he see something on the map that no one else understood? Today, we are uncovering the controversial, cold-blooded logic of the man who chose a weaker tank to win a faster war. To understand the weight of Patton's refusal, you have to understand the sheer terror of the Panther panic. By 1944, the German Panther was arguably the finest killing machine on the planet. Its sloped armor was nearly impenetrable from the front, and its high-velocity 75mm gun could snip a Sherman's turret off from 2 miles away. American crews were desperate. They were losing 4 or 5 Shermans just to take down one German Panther. It was a brutal game of numbers, where the cost was measured in the charred remains of American boys. Letters were flooding home. GIs were begging for a tank that didn't require a suicide charge just to get a side shot. The M26 Pershing was the solution. It wasn't just a tank, it was hope. But Patton looked at this 46-ton savior and saw a liability. To find out why, we have to look past the steel and into the mind of a man who still thought like a cavalry officer from the 19th century. George S. Patton was not a tanker in the modern sense. He was a mechanized horseman. His entire philosophy of war was built on one word: exploitation. Patton didn't want to fight tank versus tank duels. To him, that was a waste of time. His doctrine was simple: hold them by the nose and kick them in the pants. You let the infantry and artillery do the bloody work of pinning the Germans down, holding the nose, and then you send your tanks racing around the flank into the rear, the kick in the pants. For this kick to work, Patton didn't need a heavy, slow fortress. He needed a wolf. Patton's love for the Sherman wasn't based on ignorance. It was based on a cold, calculated strategy. He valued 3 things more than the lives of individual tank crews: reliability, speed, and logistics. The reliability trap. A German Tiger was a masterpiece of engineering, but it was a nightmare to maintain. Their transmissions would shatter after a few hundred miles. Patton famously said that a Tiger with a broken engine is just a stationary pillbox, but a running Sherman is a weapon of war. The Sherman was the Toyota of tanks. It just kept going. The bridge problem. This is the detail most historians miss. Europe's bridges in 1944 were old and narrow. The 33-ton Sherman could cross almost any bridge. The 46-ton Pershing, it would collapse them. For Patton, a tank that can't cross a river is useless. He wanted to race across France, not wait for engineers to build heavy-duty bridges while the Germans retreated and dug in. The numbers game. America could build 3 Shermans for every heavy tank. Patton knew that in a war of attrition, quantity has a quality of its own. He would rather have 1,000 average tanks reaching the Rhine than 100 perfect tanks stuck in the mud of Normandy. Here is the outlier truth that makes this story so haunting. Patton was right, and his soldiers were also right. The tanker in the turret was fighting a tactical war. His world was 500 yards wide.
For him, Patton's refusal felt like a death sentence. He wanted the Pershing because he wanted to live through the next 10 minutes. But Patton was fighting a strategic war. His world was the entire map of Europe. He wasn't trying to win a tank duel. He was trying to collapse the Third Reich in months instead of years. He believed that if he switched to the Pershing, his blitzkrieg would slow down to a crawl. The war would drag on into 1946, and even more people would die in the long run. Patton made the ultimate commander's choice. He sacrificed the safety of his men in the short term to ensure the victory of the army in the long term. Patton chose the Ronson because it was the key to his lightning war. He chose the reliable workhorse over the powerful thoroughbred. He won the war, but he did it by asking his tankers to face impossible odds in an inferior machine. So we ask you, was Patton a visionary genius who saved Europe by keeping the pace of the invasion alive? Or was he a cold-hearted relic whose refusal to adapt sent thousands of Americans to an unnecessary fiery death? If you were in that turret in 1944, would you have forgiven him?